Tell us a little bit about what you do at Morgan Stanley, how it intersects with climate change, and what brought you here to COP.
The journey to here began a long time ago. So it was actually more than 12 years ago in 2009. We founded the Morgan Stanley Global Sustainable Finance Group out of the conviction that we absolutely needed private sector capital to drive the scale and speed of investment that we needed to really solve some of our biggest sustainability challenges. Private sector capital not only could play an important role, but that you could actually do it profitably as well as creating positive impact. Where we are today, we have focused a lot on creating proactive investment opportunities for our investors in sustainable investing, but also thinking about how we manage across our lending book in terms of financed emissions.
Explain a little bit about what you mean by financed emissions or supply chain emissions and why it matters.
So financed emissions is really looking at, to the extent that we are providing finance to companies, how that relates to carbon emissions as a proportion of a company that you're financing. What's going on here at COP and what's been happening over the past few years is we're putting in place, and we have to put in place, a whole new sort of infrastructure of tools for the financial services industry that really includes carbon and climate as an inherent part of our analysis. I like to think about it almost as these building blocks where you need measurements, you need metrics, you need methodologies and disclosures all towards a goal. That we can all use the same formula towards how do you measure carbon emissions. You then have some of the TCFD, where the Task Force for Carbon-Related Financial Disclosures, that gives you a structure for the strategy of how are you going to report and really provide transparency to stakeholders and shareholders. And then of course you have the SASB standards, well now ISSBs, as of the new announcement, which is very exciting. So now really have within our sites an international harmonized set of sustainability standards that can really give comparability and transparency in a decision useful way to investors is a huge part of it. That customization for different regions, for different nationalities or specific policies, but there needs to be comparability. That then puts sort of a whole ecosystem structure around it. If we really want to have an impact in the real economy, we have to have the whole financial services industry as well as corporations aligned. If we're going to get to net zero by 2050, what does that mean by 2040, 2030? How do we get there? And can we please all count and disclose and strategize together? As much as we want to compete in the market with competitors, this is not a place for competition. No one is well served by one institution saying, we're not using any of those common standards, we're going to use our own proprietary scoring methodology in a black box, and we'll hold ourselves accountable, but no one else knows how to compare that.
And if you think about this COP as opposed to previous COPs, how do you see that evolving?
Whether it's the pandemic or climate change, these things don't respect national borders, they don't respect election cycles, they want to know what is happening in the real economy. We need to come together, not only set goals together, but actually manage and implement and execute together. The regulators have played an incredibly important role to remap the very infrastructure of how we need to understand financial risk, climate risk, and the interrelation between those two of them.
What are you looking for in terms of outcomes?
At the highest level, the most important wish list is the national commitments, ideally followed up with national plans to actually implement them. I think we've seen two really interesting forces that aren't usually necessarily aligned coming together. One is big finance, and then you've got the youth who are demanding action now. And I'm choosing to be optimistic that when you have trillions of dollars of asset owners and the youth aligned in what we need to push to for the future, that hopefully we can make some breakthrough changes.